How to get your financial life in order in 2025.
Brian, I am so excited to talk about this because this is a wonderful time to be thinking about, okay, what are the things that I need to do to make sure that my financial life is in fact in order? Because we know factually there are a lot of people who do not have their financial lives in order. We know that in actuality, according to the Fidelity 2025 resolution study, they found that more than 1/3 of Americans, 1 out of 3, actually live paycheck to paycheck, meaning if that next paycheck does not come in, their financial life goes off the rails.
Well, I know a lot of you are feeling squeezed, and the world hasn't been doing you any favors with all the inflation and the housing market running away from people. But this can be the year. I want people to realize I get excited because 2025, whenever we cross into a brand new year, there's a reason everybody has New Year's resolutions, is because you're realizing you have an optimism that this is going to be the year that it sticks and you can do better. And we're going to be there. We're going to help you through the struggles because we're going to give you the stats and tell you where inflation's at and other things. But then you can't control that. But you can start making better decisions, making the good habits as easy as possible, the bad habits that much harder, and actually build the financial life that you've dreamed about to have your great, big, beautiful tomorrow.
And if you are someone where finances are going to be a priority for you in 2025, you're not alone. Fidelity did a study asking respondents, hey, what are your New Year's resolutions? What are the things that you are thinking about as moving into the new year? And 65% of respondents to the survey said they are considering some sort of financial resolution this year. So this is top of mind for most folks. And I imagine if you are viewing this, if you are tuning into the Money Guy Show, financial topics are probably top of priority for you as well.
Well, I want to make sure everybody sets financial resolutions, but sadly, the majority of people, it falls off.
That's right.
So let's actually jump into how this is the year you get traction, and let's tell you how can you actually fix this. And here's the first thing you ought to work on. Master the mindset.
Yeah, people don't realize how powerful that thing between your ears is and how much it can control the things that happen in your life every single day. And mindset realistically drives a huge portion of whether we will or will not achieve our financial goals, as well as will we or will we not stick to the things that we think we want to stick to when we start the year out.
Well, I always think about the fact that if Fidelity and they asked this question in their survey, 30% of people describe their relationship with money as stressful.
And that's sad.
Well, but I think I want to be honest because I think we all watch the highlight reels of social media and we're like, well, everybody else has got it figured out, but I'm over here all by myself being stressed out. No, it's okay. There's a reason we've coined the term the messy middle.
That's right.
I think the 20s, the 30s, you're going to feel short on money. You're going to feel short on time. There's nothing wrong with it, but that's not your excuse to not still do something. And that's why we want to make sure you don't wallow in the negative and not try to figure out how you can create those small decisions that will lead to big results with just a little bit of discipline today.
And look, our belief is that money doesn't have to be stressful. Personal finance doesn't have to be stressful. Yes, there will be some unknown unknowns that come your way, but if you can prepare yourself, you will be able to weather those unknown unknowns and actually work towards your great, big, beautiful tomorrow. So when it comes to mastering your mindset, let's talk about some steps you can take to move through that. The very first one is just understanding where you are right now today.
Yeah, there's not a better time to start the good habit, talking about good habits, making them as easy as possible. Just make it an annual tradition that you're going to do a net worth statement every year. You need to know what you own and then offset that with what you owe so you can actually have a dashboard view. Think about an executive summary of where you are in your financial life. And we can load you up. We have two options for you. We have a free version. If you go to moneyguy.com/resources, we have a template that you can go download. And then if you have graduated beyond just the habit of recording your net worth statement, now you want to know, hey, how are my debt being paid down? Maybe I'm in year 3, year 4 of doing this. How about my assets growing in comparison to my income? How about my 3-bucket strategy? How much money is in tax-free, tax-deferred, and after-tax money? We're going to load you up with all that stuff. If you go to learn.moneyguy.com, we actually have a net worth tool that takes that template to the next level and actually let you have that dashboard view.
What I love is not only is it an organizational tool to show you spot and time, okay, where am I today? Where am I on my financial journey? I love that it can actually be a motivational tool. It can be the thing that as you fill out your net worth statement this year, and then you do it next year and the following year, you can begin to see the fruit of your hard work. You can begin to see the small decisions you're making today pay off in the future. So if you're not tracking this, if you're not doing this annually, you absolutely should start. The best year to have done a net worth statement was last year, which means the second best year to start doing it is right now this year.
Well, we're running a financial show, so there's a lot of financial mutants. A lot of you probably find yourself in relationships where you think there's a lot more sizzle to financial matters than your significant other does. Let me go ahead and tell you, a great communication tool is doing a net worth statement, because I've already had that meeting with my wife this year because we eat our own cooking here at the Money Guy Show, and it is fascinating to watch and answer questions so that my wife knows that we're on the same table financially and we're working towards the same goals. This is a great tool. So if you've ever struggled with communication and you're like, how in the world can I have these conversations? Turn it into a fun night out. Bring this. I know this sounds so nerdy, but I'm telling you, if you can go on this journey, talk to your spouse, use this tool, this will become a tradition that actually makes your relationship that much stronger.
The second thing that you can think about when it comes to mastering the mindset is know the power of your dollars and what those dollars can do over time. Because it's amazing when we think about getting our financial house in order, when we think about shifting the financial direction we're moving in now to move in the right direction, it doesn't often take cataclysmic changes. Often it's very small tweaks that can have huge impacts. And if you're someone young or early on in your journey and you have a ton of time ahead of you, how powerful those small decisions can be is huge.
Well, also, I think this is the stage. When you're younger, you have a lot of envy in your heart because we live in this social media world where everybody's posting their highlight reels, and you feel like, man, I don't have anything, because everybody's overstating what they have out on social media. I want to give you the ability to actually feel really good about your situation, because maybe you're not loaded up with money, but you might be a billionaire of time, meaning all the people you're looking at and you're wishing you had what they had, they're looking at you and going, man, if I just had the time that these people have. And we've actually created a tool that actually will put this to numbers for you. And it's, if you go to moneyguy.com/resources, we have our wealth multiplier tool. And let me give you just a flavor on this. For a 20-year-old, every dollar that comes into your possession has the potential to become $88.
That's right.
For a 30-year-old, every dollar has the potential to become $23. Oh, Michael Jordan. For every 40-year-old, it's $7. For every 50-year-old, it's $3. Do you see the degradation of the value of those decisions? So don't be jealous of people who are older than you, who have more. They're looking at you and saying, I'm jealous of that billionaire of time who's that 20-something. Just make sure you're doing something with that abundance and wealth of time, because this is going to be the tool that gets you excited about that.
All right, so when it comes to mastering your mindset, moving into this new year, we want you to understand where you are. We want you to understand the power of your dollars and what they can do over time. And the third thing we want to do, especially as it relates to your mindset, is to set firm goals. Make sure you have goals in place that are actually meaningful, that actually matter, that will actually move you in the direction towards your financial outcomes.
Like that we use the word firm, because the opposite of firm is squishy.
Okay.
Like if you just woke up this morning and you go, hey, it's a new year. I think this is the year I want to be rich. That's a squishy goal.
Okay.
Because it's like squishy. I want to be rich. A firm goal is, Bo, and there's even an acronym out there. What is it? Is it what's the word that
you
people
want to
are saying?
set SMART goals.
And what does SMART mean?
They need to be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. So when you make a financial goal, it doesn't need to be, I want to be rich. It needs to be, I want to see my savings rate hit X percent by the end of this year, because that is specific and it's measurable and it's achievable and it's relevant to your ultimate timeline. and it's time bound. If you can set that goal specifically, you have a much higher likelihood of actually sticking with it throughout the course of the year.
Well, this is the differentiation point between dreaming versus actually creating a plan. Because if you're not writing down your goals and your plans, if you're actually not making it where it's measurable so you can actually see if you've reached the point, then you really are just daydreaming. And I think there's everybody daydreams, but very few people actually take the effort to actually put pen to paper or create a spreadsheet or just somehow record. Maybe it's the Notes app within your phone. Let's actually start recording what your goals are for 2025 so you can come back and have some accountability on that too.
And look, don't just take our word for it. What's wonderful about the study that Fidelity did is they said, okay, for folks who kept their resolutions through 2024, what were some of the secrets? Like, what was some of the secret sauce around them actually sticking with it? And this is what Fidelity found, that 28% of the respondents that were able to follow through on their New Year's resolution that was financial had a clear and specific goal. 27% said the goal was realistic. It wasn't some lofty goal that was unattainable. And they were able to easily maintain that over the long term. And then 27% said, it felt good to make progress. They had some wins along the way built in, and having those achievable wins along the way allowed them to stay the course and actually see it through.
So these are all important because this is mindset. When we often talk about mindset can be up to 80%, but at some point you have to have action.
Sure.
You actually have to have where you're making these small decisions that start piling on top of each other and they create big results. One of the first things that I think you can do that actually shows some results is optimizing the cash flow. This is where you're going to actually turn some of that discipline of your behavior into actually the margin that turns into dollar bills.
Yeah, when it comes to changing our financial situation, our shovel is often the number one thing that we get to use to impact that. And so with that shovel, generally, when it comes to financial goals, there are only two things you can really do. You can either figure out, how do I spend less money, or how do I make more money? That's the actual method of optimizing that cash flow. Well, a lot of folks have recognized that, and Fidelity even have found that when it comes to like top resolutions in 2025, year over year, it tends to repeat. We know that one of the top resolutions is spend less money. In this past survey, it was about 31% of respondents said that was one of their top resolutions. Another 37% said one of their top resolutions was to pay down debt. Again, that's decreasing expenses. And then the third category was save more money. That was 43% of respondents. So people have recognized that, okay, optimizing cash flow matters when it comes to achieving financial goals. So how do I either save more? How do I either make more, or how do I either spend less?
Yeah, let's talk about how we actually do this. And the first thing we have on optimizing your cash flow, and if you're trying to figure out how you spend less money, is let's figure out the low-hanging fruit. And I loved one of the things that y'all know Daniel worked with us. He's worked with us forever, and he still writes a lot of content for us. He did a Beyond Basics article that delved right into this. And I loved how it talked about, I'll say the cuss word, budgeting. Nobody likes to do budgeting.
I thought he was going to say the real cuss word.
No, it's a necessary thing, because if you haven't mastered that first ingredient of wealth building, which is discipline, you got to start tracking things. And I loved when Daniel did this exercise, he shared that you need to go pull your credit card statements, your bank statements, and other things, and actually look at write down all of your expenses for the last few months.
Yep.
And this is where the secret sauce is. He said, for the things that are necessities, highlight them in green.
Just color code the green.
Go color code them green. Things that you're like, okay, this was probably something I can't get away from, but it's in the gray zone. Highlight that as yellow. And then I want you to be honest with yourself when you look at that spreadsheet and you see things like, what was I thinking? Why did I spend money on that? I didn't have to go buy that day or do that do that activity that day. Put those in red. And I want you to be very honest with yourself. Is there margin in your budget so that you can plan and improve to actually turn that into decisions that turn into money that you can actually turn into wealth for the future?
And I think what's amazing is if you actually work through this exercise and you cut out all the red things, and then maybe you even trim out some of the yellow things, and maybe that equates to a couple $100 a month, and you go to moneyguy.com/resources and you plug that couple $100 a month into the wealth multiplier to see what that can turn into, you will recognize that these small decisions, just capitalizing this low-hanging fruit can have a huge impact over the long term. These small decisions that seem insignificant today, that latte, that eating out, that entertainment, that fill in the blank purchase, if it's not a necessity and you could instead shift those dollars more intentionally, there's a really high likelihood that those dollars are going to be better used somewhere else, and those little adjustments are going to have big impacts. So that's how, when you start thinking about optimizing your cash flow, you do want to make sure that you're spending with intention. I think one of the things that this exercise will allow you to do is recognize, okay, was that purchase I made an intentional purchase? Was it something that I should have done? Or was it just a convenient purchase? We said, how often are you going somewhere and you're running an errand, like, oh, it'd be great, a cup of coffee. I'm just going to pull over and get a cup of coffee. If you don't recognize that you're doing those things, you might not recognize how your money is ultimately flying away from you on a daily basis.
Yeah, I would, if you're going to spend with intention, meaning you're actually going to start tracking this stuff. For those who are nibbling around the edges and aren't doing full-on budgets, I don't think there's anything wrong with gamifying this in some ways. We were talking about this in the content meeting. You can do no spend challenges. Maybe you're only going to spend a few weekends. You choose which weekends you're going to be a little more loose with the money on going out to eat and other things.
Or give something up for a month. Give up streaming for a month. Give up something like that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that do January, dry January.
Yeah, that's a
money saver right there if you're not buying those drinks from the restaurants. Also, the only spend on X day. Now, maybe this is where we showed our age, because the content team came up with this, and we're like, yeah, you're only going to buy groceries on Sunday. You're only going to do this. And I was like, well, it's funny you say that, because that seems extreme. But I think back to when I was younger in the 20s and 30s and trying to figure out how I make this all work. I would think about it in terms of weekends. It's like, this weekend, if I can only spend $125, and if once I hit that, I stopped. I think these type of behaviors, it doesn't mean that this is, because you made the example in the content meeting, like, what if you get in your car and you realize that the gas tank is on E? Does that mean I just start walking? I'm like, well, obviously there's a break glass mentality that you have to still go on with life, but it's just more of the, once again, being intentional, that you're not going to just let life happen. It's that where things just build on themselves. You give a mouse a cookie, where you think about, you wake up to go meet your friends for brunch. On the way to brunch, you stop by the Starbucks and get your cup of coffee. After the brunch, you and your friends look across, see there's a Lululemon, and you're like, let's go in there and see what's on sale this month. You see how this stuff just kind of snowballs on top of itself. I'm just saying, be intentional. There's nothing wrong with those type of decisions when there's a time and a place, but you don't just go along and spend and consume without a plan to actually build in the background as well.
Now, the reality is you can only cut so far. I mean, you can cut your expenses down, but eventually you're going to cut down to the bone where you can't cut anymore. And we recognize that in the world in which we live today, that's a reality. So if you can't cut your expenses, then the only other lever that you get to pull is, how do I increase my income? How do I get the cash flow coming into my household higher? And what's great is now might be a better time than ever, an easier time than ever in history to figure out ways to do this. It could be something as simple as just advocating for yourself at your place of work. How can I position myself to be so invaluable to the organization they can't help but move me along or promote me or offer me more opportunities that have meaningful impacts to my personal economics? Or maybe it's for how to do a side hustle or freelance, or I have some unique skill set that I can use on the side that will ultimately increase my income. Or it may be something we recognize, okay, the path that I've been on, this career that I thought I was in was really just a job. And this job does not have the prospects that I would like for my future self. So I might have to think of a change. I might have to look at a career shift to move into a place to where I could generate more income for myself and my family. These are all things that are possible to do, but you have to take an active role in doing them. These are likely things that aren't just going to happen without you creating action to make them move in that direction.
One of the best superpowers when it comes to finances is when in doubt. Like, you think about stock market investing, we always say, when in doubt, zoom out.
Yep.
I think it's the same thing with your lifestyle and your life and your career, is that you have to be honest with yourself. If you feel like you're stuck, when in doubt, zoom out and ask yourself, is this a job? Is this a career? Are there opportunities? Do I need to be making big macro decisions that are going to put me where I am. We deal with that constantly here at our firm, where we get career changers, we get other people making decisions. So it is one of those things. Focus on, we've talked about the discipline side, which was the spending, but I also want you to think about where is the shovel of your life, because there's always, we always, in the beginning, one of the best investments you can make on yourself is choosing the right career.
That's right. Yep.
There's a reason in my book, Millionaire Mission, I spent so much time when I talked about education and student loans, I listed, and look, it's not my list. I made sure I gave the citation for it so you didn't think I was just being biased. But it was the best paying, the jobs that can pay off student loans and create income versus the careers and the majors that people focus on that just don't have a high propensity to pay back debt and create income. That's why you need to be an active participant in your financial life. Don't just go along to get along and find yourself in a bad situation.
And then the other thing, when you think about optimizing your cash flow, is you have to be prepared to expect the unexpected. There are going to be things in your life that have a financial impact that you were not planning on, that you did not expect, that you did not see coming. A matter of fact, unexpected expenses was the top financial concern for folks entering 2025. 38% of respondents said, hey, my number one concern is that there's going to be an expense I did not see coming, and it is going to derail me. But in my opinion, Brian, there are ways to stave that off. I mean, if we know that unexpected things are going to happen, there are ways that we can prepare ourselves to be ready when those unexpected things happen.
Look, emergency funding and making sure you're staying away from those desperate decisions is such a powerful thing that in the financial order of operations, which is 9 steps, 2 of the 9 steps is actually giving a nod towards this, because step number 1, highest deductible covered. Step number 4, after you get your free employer money, which, because nobody's walking away from 50%, 100% guaranteed money, and nobody wants to be paying your credit card company 25% plus. But you get to step 4, emergency reserves. You see very quickly, cash is obviously important, because when you find out that the majority of bankruptcies are because people had medical emergencies or they had emergencies that occurred that put them into bad financial situations, you'll quickly realize that there is a dividend to be paid for the preparation of expecting the unexpected.
Yeah, when Fidelity did their survey, they actually found that 79%, almost 8 out of 10 respondents, said one of their goals was to aim to build their emergency fund, meaning that 8 out of 10 folks didn't have the appropriate emergency fund. So we want to make sure that you are equipped to not be in that category, because when these unknown things happen, if you have a fully funded emergency fund, they just become little blips on your radar, not bringing your financial life to a screeching halt. They just become a little blip that then you're able to move on and move through. It's why we say, okay, step 4, your goal should be to have a fully funded emergency fund. Well, the question you're probably likely asking is, all right, what's that mean? Is that $1,000? Is it $5,000? Is it $10,000? Well, our view is that when it comes to a fully funded step 4 emergency fund, we want you to have somewhere between 3 to 6 months of your living expenses in liquid cash. So then the question becomes, Brian, how do I know? Which one do I pick?
And this is why I love our content, because we actually answer the difficult, squishy questions nobody actually wants to answer. And one of them is 3 to 6 months. Well, we were like, let's put together a list of actually considerations people could take into account for their own financial situation. 3 months, 6 months. We have a spectrum here. If you have a job that you could go with, has high job security, or it could be replaced very quickly, that lends itself to 3 months.
Like nurses are one that immediately pops to mind.
Or CPAs, nerdy accountants like myself. I mean, there's always going to be a need for bean counters. So that, you can lean yourself to 3 months. If you have a low job security or a job that's going to be very hard to replace to get that level of income, definitely go further on the long spectrum with your emergency reserves. Dual income, meaning both spouses work, or single income, but you have a whole household living off of this one person. You can imagine dual income is 3 months. If you have everybody counting on this one income, we better have extra reserves to cover for that. Multiple income streams. Maybe you hear about all these crazy stats about passive income streams. If you have rental property, dividend or portfolio income plus your wages, that's going to help you go to 3 months versus one income stream, like your job. You want to make sure you have that covered. I already kind of covered this one, but I'll let you, because I kind of get crazy. I'll let you pick it up from here.
Yeah, if it's easy for you to replace your job, you might want to err towards 3 months. If it's more difficult, you might want to go to 6 months. If you have children or dependents depending on you, 3 months. If you're just a lone wolf, single, no one else there, then you might want to think about 6 months. It all depends on you. If you have a flexible lifestyle where you have expenses that are variable, where you could really cut if you had to, maybe you go down to 3 months. If your lifestyle is more fixed, you have a mortgage or other high fixed costs, then you may want to err towards 6 months. And then if you have other resources, maybe you have that step 7 highly funded, large after-tax account that you could get into, or maybe you have big Roth IRAs you've been putting money into for years and years and years and have a lot of basis in there, perhaps you could justify 3 months. But if your only liquidity, the only dollars you can get access to is your emergency fund, then you might want to err towards 6 months. So if you can work through these individual items, you'll figure out, okay, what is the best solution for me? And if you have that fully funded 3 months or that fully funded 6 months, and then that unknown thing comes your way, you're going to be prepared. You're going to be able to navigate. It's not going to have to cause you to make a drastic financial decision like racking up high interest credit card debt that is going to immediately start working against you.
I love when we get to do these new first of the year shows, because we get to throw in content that you guys sometimes don't want to hear. It's the tough love stuff, because it's not only the unknown stuff like emergency reserves being covered is important, but there are some additional preparations. And don't cut it off. I'm telling you, watch this part, because this is just as important, and your loved ones need this. There's nothing wrong with having term life insurance, because if somebody is counting on your income to provide for financial goals, education, pay off debt. If you're not here, maybe you're early in the part, you have a good income, but you just don't have enough savings and investments in the account for it to stand on its own. Don't sleep on term life insurance for your loved ones. How about, Bo, what's more risky? The risk of death or the risk of becoming disabled? Which one's more likely while you're in working age?
Yeah, we used to say, your risk of disability is much higher than your risk of death. That's not true. We're all going to die, but premature death, you as a worker are actually much more likely to suffer from a long-term disability than you are from premature death. And yet most people, I want to say it's something like 1 out of 5 people in the active workforce right now will experience a long-term disability in their working life. And yet this is one of the most underinsured areas we see. So if you are someone that has other people depending on you, or maybe you just have fixed costs that you have to satisfy, like a mortgage, like rent, you should have disability insurance in place. And it doesn't have to be incredibly expensive, but it does need to be something that you're at least checking the box on.
The other thing, I think a lot of people, you think you're good with your money. So if you're renting a place, you have renter's insurance. If you have a car, you have automobile insurance. If you own a house, you have homeowner's insurance. But even if you're being very active in making sure you have coverage, there's still a lot of gaps, a lot of things. And you're like, man, if only there was a solution that wasn't that expensive, that could kind of fill in the gaps or the gray zones of my insurance, of my life. And that's what actually umbrella insurance is. It sits over top, just like the visual would make you think it does, on top of your homeowner's insurance, on top of your auto policies, and it just gives you some liability protection. So in case those gap areas or gray areas are leaving you exposed. And the good news is you can buy 7 figures of coverage for a few $100 every year. It's something that I would encourage you, go talk to your property and casualty insurance agent. It's something they probably would love to have that discussion with you about. By the way, we don't sell insurance, so this isn't something we're trying to do for you. It's just something we're trying to keep you protected.
And remember, one of the things we're talking about is how do you prepare for the unknown unknowns? Well, one of the great things that you can do to prepare both yourself as well as your loved ones is make sure that you have estate documents and proper estate planning in place. And this doesn't have to be difficult. If you have children, you just want to have a document that says, hey, if something were to happen to me and my spouse, this is the person that's going to take care of the kids, or this is the person that's going to take care of the money, or if I were not here tomorrow, this is what I would want my assets to do. If you can prepare for a fully funded emergency fund, and you can have term life insurance and make sure you're covered for disability and protect your property, and then have estate planning in place. Again, when these things happen, we're not saying that they're not going to be difficult, but we are saying you're going to be able to make it through it. You're going to be able to see the other side of your financial life without becoming totally disrailed. So as you're thinking through this, all right, you're like, okay, I figured out I had to master my mindset moving into this new year. And then I wanted to optimize my cash flow and think about those things. Okay, what's next? Now that I've done those, okay, I feel like I'm in a good space from a headspace wise. What's the next step? Well, the next step is the exciting one. This is when you get to work.
Yeah, it's funny how, Bo, you don't even realize it. We're doing some show prep for an upcoming show, which I love these things where we get to talk about mindset and other things. And we were talking about 80-20 rule. And one of the things when we were in that content meeting talking about the 80-20 rule, we were talking about what is achievement. And achievement is one of those things, if we're thinking about 80-20, it's probably 80% preparation, but then there is 20% of action to actually create the achievement. We like to think here at the Money Guy Show, we are loading you up with that 80% preparation. But there are every now and then somebody climbs out from underneath the bridge and they troll on us a little bit and they say, guys, you say the same things over and over and over again. I'm like, yeah. This is the way good financial management is that you're going to notice that there's a theme here, that there's consistency, such a consistency that we can add rules, we can add steps, but there will come a time if you find yourself that you know everything that we're about to say, you can practically regurgitate my next words. I want to encourage you to lean into that 20% action. Get to work. This is the year, 2025. Doesn't mean I want you to go away, by the way. I still want you hanging out, getting those affirmations, getting those attaboys. It's fun when you know that you're doing the right things and you get affirmed on all those small decisions you're making. But there is a time where we have to get nudged, to get pushed, to go to that next step to actually start creating action.
So what do? Here's a great one. Track your progress. I mean, obviously, we've already told you should be doing an annual net worth statement where every single year you see where you are when you add everything you own, you take away everything you owe to see where you stand. But that doesn't mean that you can't set up small wins along the way. Maybe you don't have that fully funded emergency fund yet. So you say, you know what I'm going to do? By the middle of this year, I'm going to have 6 months of living expenses in my emergency fund. And track your progress. Every time your paycheck comes in, check, okay, where's my cash at? Okay, where's my cash at? Okay, where's my cash at? Or maybe this is the year that you're finally going to get to max out your Roth IRA. Okay, how much do I want to have in there by the end of the first quarter? Okay, how much by the end of the second quarter? And give yourself little wins, because it's those little wins along the way that will keep you motivated to continue moving forward towards some of these longer term financial goals.
The next thing I'm going to tell you, because I like tracking your progress, but you also need to stay motivated and accountable. There's a reason New Year's resolutions, like I'm going to the gym this afternoon, and I know I'm going to have to probably reserve my time because everybody's going to be in that class. It's just, that's the way New Year's resolution. But I know by the time we get to February, it's going to be the same thing. When I go to my class in the afternoon, I'm not going to reserve it because nobody's going to be there. So staying motivated and accountable not only matters for working out and exercising, it also matters for your financial life. And so I want to encourage you to lean into having some accountability, having friends, having community. And that's actually what we've created. If you think about, if you go to moneyguy.com, we actually have a lot of people that we give free resources. I think about our live streams when we do YouTube. We have all the live streams every week so that you can stay accountable. And then I'll even go a step further. We have Reddit posts. There's a whole Reddit community that this thing, by the way, it's popping. I'm here. What'd y'all tell me in the content meeting? Top 3%? It's
up there.
We are crushing it. So you guys, if you just need some attaboys or somebody to hold you accountable or just to get questions answered. We did a live stream earlier and I was thanking our audience because sometimes questions and comments get posted and we just can't cover it all. But I'm always thankful when my financial mutants and the community we have here at the Money Guy Show, you guys fill in the blanks. So if you need that affirmation, if you need that accountability, we have something for you. And by the way, if you're part of the 40% that is not subscribed, please subscribe.
Sure
we would love to get to that gold button, that magical gold button of having 1 million subscribers. And we're not going to do that. We always forget to ask for that, but we'd love to have more subscribers so we know who you are and can keep you this coming.
And so, okay, we're talking about getting to work. All right. So all great journeys have a starting point, and that's where you are today. That's listening to this show. That's starting it. But every now and then on a journey, we need to make sure we have a map with us. We want to make sure that we don't get lost. We don't get derailed. So make sure you're also respecting the foo. It is literally supposed to be your guide, your roadmap, your atlas to make sure you arrive at your destination. If you've not downloaded your free copy, you can go to moneyguy.com/resources, and it will literally serve as an instruction manual for what to do with your next dollar, because we believe there is a better way to do money, and we have laid it out for you so that you yourself can do it.
I think it is worth repeating. We've told you, you can go download your own free copy, moneyguy.com/resources. Of course, my New York Times bestselling book that came out in 2024, Millionaire Mission. This will kind of give you the origin stories. But guys, lean into this stuff. We have created community because we want you to be the best version of yourself financially. And here's what I need people to understand. This is going to be the year that you can get traction, because I want you to own your life, or it will own you and you will have regrets. So don't sleep on another day. Make those good habits as easy as possible. Make those bad habits that much harder. Just start making those small decisions that will create your great, big, beautiful tomorrow. I'm your host, Brian Preston, Mr. Bo Hansen. Money Guy team, out.